And we're now live. So, welcome to this live stream with me, Peter Sweden, and my special guest, Opinionated European, who was at, well, basically, if you haven't heard it already, Brittany Pettibone and Martin Sellner, they were supposed to go to the UK for a free speech event at Speaker's Corner in London, and they were arrested and deported from the UK at the airport. I got a separate video that with I did an interview with Caelan Robertson. Make sure to check that out as well. But today's special guest is Opinionated European, who was covering the free speech event that Brittany Pettibone and Martin Sellner was supposed to speak at, but couldn't. So instead, other right-wingers from Generation Identity turned up to basically hold the free speech event that they couldn't do. And so you were there covering it. I understand there were quite a few Antifa and stuff happening there. So what do you have to tell us? What can you report? What happened?
Yeah, so I was there undercover for Breitbart, essentially, and it all started off very peacefully. I arrived at around 10:30 a.m. with all other movements. There were Veterans Against Terrorism. There was Generation Identity. I am part of neither, but I was there essentially to defend free speech because that is something I'm very passionate about. I did speak to some Generation Identity leaders about when to meet, if I could have some interviews. So I interviewed quite a few of them. I asked, why are they here? What are they fighting for? Why do they value freedom of speech? And I also asked them to clarify some of the misconceptions that people can have about, Generation Identity, because they're often labeled as Nazis and fascists, which wasn't my experience with the movement at all. And so I wanted to give them a platform, a chance to perhaps clarify that. And afterwards, I did some recording for Breitbart. I had to make sure they know I have enough videos of what is going on. And sometimes after the first major conflict that happened was this man from Iraq, I believe he was. He came and he started shouting at us, and then a crowd surrounded him. And he was saying that he's here to F our women, to steal our money, stuff like that, which is just completely absurd. And my theory is that Antifa sent him. I think they tried to provoke us, or at least that's what we've been talking about, that, we have to control ourselves. We can't attack this man. We tried to talk to him peacefully. He was actually being very aggressive, shouting at us, a very uncomfortable and unnecessary exchange. But I think that everyone in Generation Identity and Veterans Against Terrorism and whatever other movement was there behaved very, very well towards him. We also were handed out these little leaflets by Generation Identity, essentially saying what is allowed, what is not allowed, how this event is supposed to be carried out. So no weapons, no alcohol, no aggression, essentially that we all should be behaving very peacefully. And we also had these posters saying love freedom of speech, a red circle with a cross and then Antifa on it. So essentially this was a protest against Antifa and a protest for Brittany and Martin and for their free speech. And then what happened is that Antifa started to arrive. At first, when they arrived, it was like 5 people. I mean, I have to say it was rather embarrassing. They showed up with a little flag, like 5 old men just there, with posters saying no to fascists. And I just came closer. I wanted to take some pictures. They were just shouting at me, calling me a fascist, Nazi, biatch, obviously.
Very original.
Like Polish, but that didn't change anything. A Polish Nazi makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And then after a while, more and more people started to gather. And it ended up being, I would say, about, 60 to 100 people, maybe slightly more. On Antifa's side, there was loads and loads of police as well. We could see 3 armored police cars. And then there was police among us constantly interviewing us, asking why we're there. So that was quite an uncomfortable exchange. They weren't doing the same to Antifa, but they were doing that to us. And to be quite honest, looking at what happened to Martin, what happened to Brittany, it seems that why do we even need Antifa when it's the border police that are going to do their job for them, right? Stopping people from even entering the country and then deporting them. Anyhow,
how many? Sorry, how many people were on the Generation Identity side? Do you know?
There was quite a lot of us, like also around 200 maybe altogether.
Okay, that's quite a lot, actually.
200, yeah. It was quite a lot of people. There was quite a crowd. Yeah, and so essentially the police created a wall between us. So there was, I think, 10 policemen on one side, then about 3 meters of space between them, and then a wall of 10 policemen on the other side. And I was just recording it because I went on the Antifa side to record them, which was one could say it was silly, one could say it was brave, one could say it was just what I had to do. I was born in Poland, and my great grandfather went all the way from Leningrad to Berlin during the war, and my family has instilled in me a sense.
So I think we just lost you there, just for a brief moment there.
Yeah, sorry. So what I was saying is that my family instilled in me love for freedom of speech, especially because they lived in a communist country for so many years. They were not allowed to say what they wanted to say. And so I was just there looking at these Antifa people shouting, calling us fascists, Nazis, bash a fash, no free speech for fascists, stuff like that. And I was just there thinking, it doesn't matter whether you agree with somebody or what they have to say, but they have to have that right to speak up. Because I feel like if today they're restricting the sort of things that Sargon of Akkad says, like they did storming his event, then, what stops them? Where will we draw the line in 10, 15 years? Will my children be allowed to say anything? Will people say, I'm offended, and then that is over, you're going to prison or something like that? So I was just there thinking, I have to record these people. And there wasn't any aggressive exchange between us, simply because there was a lot of police, but also because Generation Identity and all the other movements went with the mindset that we are going to be polite, we're going to be peaceful, and we're going to protest peacefully for freedom of speech, make our point. And we truly did take moral higher ground. We weren't shouting at them, we weren't calling them names. And they were rather aggressive. And even when you see masked people, you just feel, okay, they are there with a motive. They are there to attack you. Why would they cover their faces otherwise? And so I think that we did a great job at not letting them intimidate us and going in with the mindset that we're here for Brittany, we're here for Martin, and we have to do all that we can to allow this protest to last and not get arrested. And
yeah, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And then came this Catholic man who usually goes to Speaker's Corner, and he was first interviewing us. He was talking to us about our values, and then he tried to go and talk to Antifa, and they wouldn't let him talk. They would create a wall of man so that he couldn't go through. They turned on a megaphone so that you couldn't hear what he was saying. So you can just see what Antifa really does. That guy was there with very peaceful mindset. He just wanted to know what they stood for. He disagreed with a lot of what one side was saying, with a lot of what the other side was saying, but at least what he said is that we allowed him to speak. We were willing to defend what we said we were there to defend, which was free speech.
Yeah, I've often found that the Antifa people aren't very interested in talking at all. They just want to cause a riot and just scream and be nasty. That's what seems to be their usual tactic. And yeah, mostly I've seen, mostly from the right-wing protests I've seen, they've often been the other way around. They've often been for free speech, as you said here. And I think it sounded like a pretty peaceful protest, at least from the right-wing side, but then the Antifa side were a bit messy, if I understand correctly.
Sorry, you disappeared for one.
Oh, sorry. What was the last thing you heard?
You disappeared for like a solid 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just saying that it seems often it's Antifa that are usually the kind of messy and nasty side, and usually the right-wing side, the patriots, usually seem to be the ones that value free speech. So it seems to have been the case again from your description at this protest.
Exactly. That the main difference between us is that we want to give people rights. We want to give people, we want to empower people to exercise their liberties, whereas they just really want to take liberties away from people they disagree with. And I think that can be and is very problematic.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I've been seeing the development, especially from the far left side. You mentioned Sargon of Akkad and that they protested him as well a couple of days ago. I saw that speech, and Sargon, he's just a liberal. I mean, he's a literal centrist liberal guy. He's not right-wing at all. I mean, he welcomes migrants and so on. And the left-wing really should like him, you would think. But then they go around and call him alt-right, Nazi, whatever. It seems like everyone who's to the right of Mao or to the right of Stalin is literally a Nazi now, according to these people. And I've been seeing some of the things happening in the UK, and the thing that's really worrying me, it seems like these people are actually infiltrating the Labour Party in the UK, who, and it seems like they might have a chance of winning the next election. So I'm really worried for the free speech in the UK. It's really bad right now with the Conservative government. It's, you have to remember, it's a so-called Conservative government, and they are stopping an American girl, a conservative American girl, from coming to the UK just because she was going to interview Tommy Robinson. How bad will it be when Labour comes in, when the left-wing Labour comes into government? I mean, how's it looking in how's it looking in the UK? It was like 6 months since I was last in the UK. Has there been any? How's the kind of general atmosphere and feel in the UK right now?
Yeah, so there is definitely a lot of Labour support, especially among young people. And I'm 18, first year of law, so that's sort of the people I'm around with the most. And, I have been called a Nazi and a fascist not once, not twice at my university campus. And I'm just waiting for them to stage a protest, no fascist on campus, bash for fashion, not let in the building. But yeah, definitely there is, unfortunately, a growing support for Labour. And so what I'm doing and what my friends are doing is that we're running for a position in the Conservative Society at LSE. I mean, we're trying to do everything that we can with the little platform that we have. And essentially what we're trying to do is fight this so-called silent Tory phenomenon. Because we know, and I know because people come up to me and they tell me that we are conservative, we agree with you on this, perhaps disagree on that matter, but, essentially fiscally conservative, more or less socially right of center. Most people, this is the silent majority, but people are scared to speak up, and so I think that it's really important to show young people who aren't afraid to say what they think, and in that way perhaps inspire others to also speak up their mind. And I think that by being a president or whatever, having whatever position in the Conservative Society at my school, I would be able to do that. So that's the plan for now. But certainly, I participate at the Libertarian Society at King's. They held a protest the other day. Loads of people, I mean, hundreds of students showed up to protest Antifa because KCL, which is one of the universities in London, is a free speech. So they literally have these free speech policemen, essentially, who get paid £12 an hour for listening to speeches and getting offended. If they get offended, they report it, and then that speaker cannot hold speeches for some time. And I went to Jacob Rees-Mogg's speech about 2 months ago, and they came and they were handing out leaflets about what is protected, and things like obesity, I don't remember, economic status, gender identity, all of those things just completely protected. You can't say anything about anything. And if somebody gets offended, those people get reported, and then the society essentially cannot hold events.
So what? So they basically have a PC police on campus?
Yeah, PC.
Really? Okay. Well, that's worse than I thought. Then that's insane.
Yeah, and that's why we were protesting. And the worst thing is, how much do you get paid at a McDonald's? £7 an hour or £8 an hour, and they get paid £12 an hour for getting offended. I mean, we're rewarding victimhood mentality. We're rewarding people for being upset about what somebody says. I mean, this really is not the way to go forward.
Who's paying them? Is that public money? I hope not.
It's university, so it's part public, part private.
No, that's just too much.
Yeah.
No, imagine paying people to get offended.
Universities, should be defunded, and people should be paying for them, because this is just insane.
Yeah, no, I think hopefully the younger generation. I would have to agree with you. What I saw before I left the UK, many of the younger people that I saw were very pro-Labour, very socialistic in the UK. Hopefully the younger generation will start to kind of move away from that. Like in America, it seems quite promising for the new generation. They seem to be very conservative, and the same in France and Italy. But it seems like the UK is kind of the other way around. They seem to be very left-wing. So hopefully you'll be able to wake them up. And it seems like you're doing quite a good work. What you're doing with your work on Twitter and on around the campus, as you said, that as you talked about before. So it's good to see more young people like you coming up and doing this kind of things. I myself, I'm quite big on Twitter, and I got quite a big YouTube channel, but it wasn't always like that. It was just what was it, 2 years ago, and when I started out, and I actually got inspired by Lauren Sudden to do what I'm doing today. So I hope I can inspire more other people to start speaking out and get the truth out there about what's happening, and stop far left communism from taking over. Yeah, is there anything else? I don't know how long you want to go on. Is there anything else you would like to add about what happened today and so on that we missed on? Is there anything else you would like to mention?
No, I think that's everything. I would just want to encourage whoever's watching, whoever's a student in UK universities perhaps, or maybe just left university, join these conservative movements, join the Libertarian Society at your uni, try to get involved in it. If you're more far right, then join more far right movements, or if you're more sort of center left or center right, join those sort of movements. There are people who have the same mindset as you do. There are people who want to fight for the same liberties that you want to fight for. So essentially what I would do is encourage you, or what I want to do is encourage you to, participate in that, because I don't want you to look, or I don't want myself to look back at my past in 20 years and think, wow, you could have done something, you could have stopped this, or you could have at least had a role in stopping this, and you did nothing. So yeah, get out there.
Yeah, excellent advice. Yeah, I think it was pretty good stream. I think we'll wrap that up then. And thank you so much for coming on and talking about what happened today. Is there any place, by the way, you have your Twitter where you upload Periscope footage of? You have a YouTube channel as well. I don't know if you're uploading any clips there or.
Yeah. So I only have a very few videos, but I will definitely upload a video about what happened today. So.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'll leave the link to your YouTube in the description below so people can find it, and make sure and go subscribe to her and watch the video from what happened at the protests, and also find her on Twitter. I'll leave the links in the description below so you can follow her on Twitter as well. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, and maybe we'll have you. Hopefully, maybe we'll have you on again later on.
Hopefully. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.